待っても何も取らない。大丈夫です。バグではございません。
あ、なるほど。
タイトルを出しましょう。
あ、
すみません。
ある。はい、あるのはある。
A new ultimate is on the horizon, and while we don't know what it'll exactly be, we do know that it is the last major piece of raid content left for Dawn Trail. So come my kittens, let me help you prepare for the new ultimate. First, we're going to start off with what you should expect when looking for a group, and then what you can do to practice once you have one. Step 1 is to set your goal.
But Samir, you talk about this in like every video, dude. Can you stop repeating yourself?
Okay, you have a fair point, but I can't stress this enough. If you compromise on your goals, then the chances that there will be friction in the group will be a lot higher than if you took the time to find a group with your exact goals. If I join a group who wants to clear as fast as possible, that might look like something else than what I imagine. For me, I want to clear the ultimate within the first week, and for someone else, they might want to clear in the first month. Both of us want to clear as fast as possible, but that looks different for the both of us. The big takeaway being, set your goal, get really specific with your goal, and don't let yourself think you are willing to compromise, because chances are, you're not. Which leads me to my next topic, and I'm going to be pretty blunt here. You should be raiding with people that you actually like. Oftentimes I see statics recruit people that look really good on paper, and they'll do really good in the trial, but beyond that, they're not doing any more due diligence. You can probably see where I'm going with this. Jokes aside, I know we've all been there. From toxic raid leaders to no-call no-shows, the more things that go wrong, the more likely morale is to tank. And while we might be desperate to fill a roster as soon as possible, it is extremely important to do your due diligence when filling that spot. Once the spot is filled, we can start to reap the benefits of having players with good chemistry. The better the chemistry, the better the problem solving ends up being. More on that later. Communication skills are vital to progressing through an ultimate. Have you ever heard the saying, the chain is only as strong as its weakest link? That's absolutely true, but I think a lot of players are willing to jump to that conclusion way too fast. In prog, you will have players that understand something immediately, and some who won't. It is then the responsibility of the players who understand to find a way to communicate the solution to the party. Now you might understand that idea conceptually, but you also need to be aware that sometimes the way you explain something might not make sense because of the phrasing or terminology used. The easiest example I can give is if I were to ask you what this is. Now some of you are thinking this is a dynamo, and some of you are thinking this is a donut, or maybe even a glory hole. Whatever the case, these players intuitively know what this mechanic is, but the player who said it was a donut might not know Final Fantasy players call it a dynamo. The game itself calls this a donut, so to new players, this is just a donut. Very broad, I know, but the point is, your job is to communicate in a way that everyone can understand, not just what makes sense to you. Having social awareness is just as important. Understanding the environment you are in will help you understand when someone is actually out of line. A competitive environment is where you will find more intense players. You know the type. The ones that express their frustration, or at the very least, you can tell how they feel based on their tone. This type of behavior is accepted in that environment because the feeling being experienced by this player is shared amongst the whole group. But it is extremely important not to confuse frustration with toxicity. If you have someone that's offensively calling you names when you make a mistake, that's not being competitive. That's being toxic, and chances are this player will cause the group to explode, big time. The second part to social awareness is group expectations. Having really high ambitions is a very good trait to have as a raider, but those ambitions could look like many things to many people. For example, if we have a week 1 capable raider who decided to play with their casual friend group, you might think that nothing could go wrong. But our week 1 raider still wants to clear week 1. Do you see the problem now? It is very likely that somewhere along this group's prog, that our week 1 raider will become impatient, or maybe even try to push the group out of its comfort zone. Whatever the case may be, there's a clear misalignment in goals, and all this is going to cause is friction. Now, is it wrong for this player to want to play with their friends? No, not at all. But they should be willing to lower their expectations since the group isn't as hardcore. The big overall takeaway being, when you are making or looking for a group, make sure you are around people with the same expectations. Otherwise, conflict will inevitably arise. Respect is arguably the most important factor when working in any team environment. Raiding with a group that respects you and your time will always bear more fruit than one that doesn't. There are many different ways of being respectful, but for raiding in Final Fantasy XIV, the most important are to be on time, to be prepared, and to be present. You'd think something like this could go without saying, but you see, When playing a game online, it can be very hard to understand that the people around you are also sacrificing the time they could be spending with their loved ones. While generally this isn't a problem, raiding could be stressful. So, it is very important to be in control of our emotions at all times and be respectful no matter what. So yeah, raid with people you like, understand what your goal is so you can tell your expectations, and be respectful to your fellow raiders. And not just because I told you so, but because your reputation will follow you from group to group.
Do you want to be remembered as a greedy fizz-range loot goblin who sucks? Or do you want to be remembered as the rank 1 Giga Chad?
And now as promised, now that we've gone over the logistics sides of preparing, let's go over the practice. So where do we start when deciding what will be good practice for an ultimate? I think most will tell you to wait for the theme to be revealed and do the fights related to that. As you can tell by the release date of this video, I'm not going to tell you that. Final Fantasy XIV has over 10 years worth of fights to pick from, but more specifically, we have 6 ultimates, and we know the fights they were inspired from. Do you see where I'm going with this? Ultimates in the most simplest form are enhancements of their non-ultimate counterparts, which means we can see how the mechanics look like before and after they're enhanced. For example, in Phase 1 of the latest ultimate, Futures Rewritten, we see a very familiar face with some very familiar mechanics. I won't go too much into detail so you can explore these fights for yourself, but I think you can start to understand why going into these fights could be really advantageous. But as a bonus, you also stand to improve as a team by doing this. The biggest advantage you have by practicing these fights is that you start to learn how your teammates work around you. I don't just mean them moving to the place they were assigned to, but how they react to new mechanics and how they naturally tend to handle them. This is important for a few reasons. Reason number 1 being that if they naturally react in a certain way to mechanics, their behavior becomes predictable. For example, understanding how melee players and ranged players want to handle mechanics can make creating an intuitive solution way faster. Reason number 2, if someone messes up a mechanic, knowing who's good at recovery and leaving it up to them might be better than if everyone were to try and play the hero. I get everyone wanting to try and help, and this is generally good behavior, but the players who could do this more effectively and efficiently should handle this to allow more bandwidth to the rest of the party. Think of all of this as practice. If we look at sports teams, they're not just gathering to refine their skills, but also strengthen their chemistry and team bonding skills. Now, do I think you need to be the best of the best to clear an ultimate? Absolutely not. But that's something I've already covered on my channel, and in short, I believe anyone could clear anything, no matter what. But I'm looking to make this ultimate an easy and pleasurable experience for everyone. By the way, I totally lied. I'm going to talk about spamming the related fights really quick. The theme of an ultimate will be based around content that already exists in the game. So once we know, make sure to become familiar with all of the mechanics in those fights. See, short and sweet, not so bad, was it? Anyways, if you feel like you missed anything or you have some of your own experience to add about progging ultimates, make sure to leave a comment down below. Not just for me, but for everyone looking for more information. Make sure to leave a like if you thought any of this advice was helpful, or not, that's cool too. And guys, we're almost at 1,000 subscribers, so please, please, please consider giving your boy a sub to make his dream come true. If you're looking for a fun community focused on raiding in Final Fantasy XIV, make sure to join my Discord that I started down below. And also, make sure to catch my live streams over on Twitch. I do live log reviews on there, and I raid a lot in the Party Finder, as well as stream my own prog, so make sure to stop by if you're interested. As always, thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.